Happy Wednesday. It's another episode of Lunchtime Live. Today we are episode 8. And I'm so excited to have Elizabeth Onyeabor here with me today. And if you're new to Lunchtime Live, this is where I like to feature different members of my business community and sharing their stories and sharing their business ideas with all of you. And as the LinkedIn Vibe expert, I believe that visibility, impact, and brand expression are the keys for your social media success. And I love doing videos because I think it ties in all those elements together. And today's a milestone for Lunchtime Live. We are now in Nigeria. So Liz, you're coming to me from Nigeria today, right?
Yes. So we hope that, the internet cooperates. Cross our fingers, right?
Yes,
Get
yes.
those
Let's
vibes
hope.
going.
Yes, get those vibes going. Hope that the internet is cooperating in Nigeria, of course. So I'm so excited because now I just feel like, so grateful that I got to meet you through the Courage to Shine Summit. And that just happened in early April. And through that, I mean, now it's just amazing that we can be connected in this space. And so welcome to Lunchtime Live. Those of you who are watching, greetings. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know where you're watching from. Say hello, drop us a note in the comments here. And as you're watching this, if you have any questions, please let us know as well. So excellent. And today is a very special topic. I got to know Liz because she is the chief ease of excellence of her company, Habitual Happiness Hub. And I got to hear her presentation and talking about perfectionism and procrastination. And it really speaks to me because it's like, oh man, like I was that person in deciding what to do with my business and deciding how to get moving forward. And I asked Elizabeth at the start of our broadcast, what was a quote that really resonated with her? And she shared this beautiful quote. I'll put it on the screen here. The wound is a place where the light enters you. And that's by Rumi. The wound is a place where the light enters you. So, Elizabeth, I wanted to start off with that because I was reading your bio on your website and you talked about, how your own experience with perfectionism, procrastination almost nearly killed you. And through that experience, however painful it was, like you've discovered your superpower. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that, how this quote, connects with that. And yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Great. Well, it's my pleasure to be with you. So thank you so much, Olivia, for having me with you and the lunchtime crowd today. So basically the I'm hearing some echo, but anyway, the perfectionism, the pressure of it and trying to perform and achieve all of these things, like trying to be the perfect mom, the perfect boss, the perfect wife, the perfect this, the perfect that, have the perfect family. I mean, the pressure is just crushing. And after so many decades, I just couldn't take it anymore. I just got overwhelmed. And the irony is that the pressure of it sent me to look for the perfect way to kill myself. But then, there is no perfect way. They all have potential ramifications. And I was thinking, well, I already feel like a failure at life. And if I fail at trying to kill myself too, like that would be intolerable. Like, how could I, how could I move on? Like if I did something to permanently injure myself for however long that would be, I mean, it just felt like more failure. So here's what happened is as perfectionists, we have this all or nothing mentality. Like we go all in if we think we can do something like to an ideal that we have, and we'll put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do it, or we won't do anything at all and we won't even start it. But we'll feel guilty about it. Okay. Like I should be doing, if only I would. So I did the perfectionist thing, which was I didn't do anything at all. I just went to sleep for the night instead of forever, how I was intending. And it was really that moment that, that Rumi quote, this is where it comes in because the light began to enter. Because when I got to the point of I thought I was in the midst of darkness and I couldn't see any light, all of a sudden light started to enter because my wound was so open, so raw, so huge that all of a sudden I started, bit by bit, this light. And so I took steps to heal myself, and so that took a few years, a lot of self-development. And, keep in mind that I had already done a lot of self-development. I had already been a coach and a mentor and a leadership development trainer for years. Okay. But I had the wrong idea about self-development because it was kind of like, oh, okay, I know that. I know how to do it. But practicing it was another thing. See?
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for opening up with that, because that's, yeah, and I think about how the all or nothing mentality, because I needed to have everything like lined up, like all my ducks in a row. I had to have my equipment, I had to have my scripts, I had to have my branding, my image all perfectly done before I even push the start button. And now, even doing these lunchtime lives, I'm just like, you know what? It's a work in progress. I'm just gonna do it. And then I can, celebrate my little micro achievements along the way. And, I think about all the time I spent just in my head and not doing anything. Have you come across clients that are just ruminating in their head and just
Well, yeah, and I mean, I
all
totally
these
relate with
obstacles?
that. And by the way, rumination was one of my favorite words, because so basically the definition of a perfectionist, okay, is that we have really high standards, perfect, right? It's a high standard. It's really not achievable. And then there's the reality of where we think we are, okay? It may not necessarily be where we actually are, but it's how we perceive where we are. Now, what happens is this gap, okay? This gap is what we tend to focus on, and this gap is what makes us not feel good enough. And it isn't just some perfectionists, it's all self-oriented perfectionists, because there's three types of perfectionism. And self-oriented perfectionists, we all have this gap between where we think we should be and where we are. And if we ever manage to bridge that gap to say, hey, I had this standard and I made it, you know, it doesn't last because we still think that we did something wrong, that maybe, oh, it was too easy and we should set a higher goal, right? And so this is why I call myself the Chief Ease of Excellence Officer at Habitual Happiness Hub, because why does everything have to be hard? It doesn't. It can be easy. We don't have to put this incredible pressure on ourselves. We don't have to let go of, you know, the the strengths that we have, because perfectionism is an identity, right? I mean, we're proud of it, right? I don't know any perfectionist who's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so embarrassed I'm a perfectionist." No, it's like, "Yeah, I'm a perfectionist," and like that's my superpower, right? But it's also our kryptonite, you know? If we're honest with ourselves, that pressure, trying to get things perfect, it can put us into overwhelm very easily. And so that's what happens with the clients that I have is, they're coming to me like, I just, I feel like a hamster in a wheel and I keep looking for these things and then I'm, trying to achieve. And then I just feel like I don't ever get enough. I never feel good enough. Like it never really lasts. The problem is that we're looking for that sense of accomplishment through achievements. And the place where the light enters you is the wound, because what we're really looking for is to expand and grow our self love. That is the bottom line. Now, it's not that we don't have self love. Of course, we all have self love. Okay. But perfectionists, we don't love those part of ourselves that made mistakes. We aren't forgiving of ourselves for those mistakes. And we need to integrate our whole self. And that's where our true superpower is. Because when we combine that, we get all the best parts of what we think, with our perfectionist makes us so fantastic without all of the baggage that we're carrying with us, the baggage of mistakes and overwhelm and all of that pressure. Does that make sense?
Totally. So many great analogies. And I want to give a shout out to our audience who is watching. Hey, Jill. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Jill's a dear friend that I've met through LinkedIn, and she's a chef. Believe it or not, she cooks for all these boys, hungry, hungry boys. And she does a fantastic job. But Jill, I had asked, what people's struggles were with perfectionism. And she put up in this great comment. It's kind of like buying a home gym, getting it all set up. Already, and they're just never using it, right? And so how often have we done that, like where we get this brilliant idea and then we're just like stuck.
Right. Yeah, because this all or nothing mentality, and this is one of the things, let's tie that into procrastination, right? So I hear a lot from people from perfectionists like, I just need to be more productive. I just need to get more things done on my to-do list. I need to manage my time. I need to, like I just need to get more stuff done. And it's actually shifting the way that we look at it. So one of the gifts that I'm offering Jill and other listeners today is my productivity booster. And this gives you the four things that stop us in our tracks. They all fall into these four categories and three simple steps that you can do to shift to them. So I'm just going to talk about one right now. And this is a big one. Now, it can be all four, or it can be just one of them, but belief is a very, very huge one. Okay. And it's not just for perfectionists, it's for everybody. But because perfectionists have an all or nothing mindset, it will literally stop us in our tracks if we don't think we're going to get it perfect or to our ideal. And I mean, I had a client not that long ago who we were working together, and she was worried about a big presentation in front of all the employees. Okay. And she's top management because I do executive coaching. And you wouldn't know what to look at her. You would think, oh, this person is so confident, blah, blah, blah. No, but she's terrified of getting in front of the group, and she doesn't really want to do it. She procrastinates preparing. It's not comfortable for her. She forces herself to do it, and she feels like she does a terrible job every time. And so we worked on this belief, okay? Because her belief in the story that she was telling herself was that I'm not good at it. People don't like what I'm boring them. They're not interested. Like she's got all this story going on in her head. And so we were bridging this belief between where she is and where she wants to be. And I said, let's find something to bridge this belief. And so we looked back into childhood, and I thought, well, she's probably going to say the moment when, she had some horrible experience with presenting to a group. No, she actually came up with an experience where she presented to the rest of the class and it went really well. So then she said to herself, well, wait, I've I've been able to do this since I was a kid. So that helped to bridge that belief like, oh, I've I've actually done it before, like as a kid, and I didn't know what I was doing. So of course I can do it now. So then that helped her kind of stair step, right? And that's about creating a more empowering belief. So when it's about, finding that kind of nugget, how we can go from here to there and bridge what's holding us back, and also not make it about all or nothing, like progress and things like that. So that's kind of my tip for procrastination and moving ahead.
Thank you, Liz, for that beautiful gift. So, yes, for those of you who are watching, I did put the link up here on the screen and then it'll be in the post as well. But I highly recommend that you download the checklist. It's amazing. I downloaded it myself and it's a reference guide. I mean, I print it out and I look at it all the time because what Liz does is so unique is that she has these acronyms. She has these acronyms about how when you're procrastinating, it's like a bird, a cage bird, and she breaks down what that means, and then she offers these tips to help you fly. So, highly recommend that you download that and check those out as well. And I was inspired to come with my own acronym because of Liz.
I'm so excited that I inspired you with that, Olivia. That's great.
Yeah, because it's creative and it's a way to say a lot, right, in a compact way. So I love that, and it helps me to remember. I mean, how often we went to school and we had to think of like mnemonic devices or learn by word association to help us remember key concepts.
Well, and see, this is why I like acronyms because I would procrastinate and I would wait till the last minute to study for a test, right, in school. And then I would come up with these weird acronyms like Aspergig and Blosh, like, so I'm, so the acronyms I use now, they make sense.
No,
That's
it's
how I remembered,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So yes, so cage, bird, and fly. That's what I keep in the back of my mind all the time when I'm feeling like in that
Right? Yeah,
mode.
that's great. And I have another acronym too. We can talk about when we talk about my books and um, well, whenever you're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to cover all of that. And my tip for you, because I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, which is beautiful, and I really appreciate how consistent you were with your LinkedIn and Facebook. And so it really added to your credibility because you had the same banner, right, on your LinkedIn profile and the same banner on your Facebook. And it said, okay, I can trust this person. Like she's showing up consistently. And I really like that. And my tip for you would be to include, right, these links that you have, the productivity booster checklist, in your contact info.
Yes, I
You
can
got
probably
it.
change that. Right now, I have the number one myth for perfectionists. So maybe I'll change that to productivity. So thank you so much. I didn't know I was going to get a really nice tip from you today. So I really appreciate that feedback.
You're welcome.
It's
Because I
just a
noticed on your
bonus for this interview.
Yes, your bonus. Because I noticed on your Facebook profile, which I love, because I was in the process of creating like landing pages and links and directing people to sources of information to help them get to know, like, and trust me. And I noticed that you had the number one perfectionist myth on your Facebook link, and you can use that same one for LinkedIn, or like you said, change it up for productivity. Like click here for your productivity booster, and that will show up on Facebook, and then that will show up on LinkedIn. And where you want to go to do that is just on your profile under the contact info. You're allowed 3 websites, so why not make one of those website URLs this link? And
Awesome.
then
I just learned something. Thanks so much.
you're welcome. You're very welcome. So, but again, just going back to how your presence. I mean, you've been able to craft right your message and your image, and I really think that's important for people to remember that where you're showing up in different social media platforms should be consistent, right? So that way people
Mhm.
can trust factor with you. Um, and yeah, and speaking about productivity, I mean, you mentioned to me that you're writing 3 books. I mean, that is huge productivity. I couldn't imagine even starting one. I've written
I
so many
know.
drafts and just kind of, getting over that hurdle. But you've got 3, so I want to do segue into that. So I
If
think
I
one
told
is
you everything I was doing, you would be like, "What? How?" But the thing is that I do them in increments, right? So this one book I've been working on and off for a few years, and then and I have some like routines for writing, but I have 2 books that I'm releasing in July. And the first book, because the first well, let me back up because I have a book. It's called From the Shadows, A Journey of Self Discovery and Renewal. And that is my memoir about my journey through depression and how I healed. And so that I released in 2016. And then I wrote a follow up which shows a deeper dive into some things that I healed during that book. And I had a lot of poems that I didn't include in that book because I have 55 original poems. Because poetry was one of the first things that helped me heal, to express my emotions. And I'll talk about that in a minute when I talk about my my 7 happy habits. So anyway, the the second book is poetry, and I've written that poetry over a number of years. Like, just sometimes something will catch, and I'll just work on it over a period of time, or sometimes it just comes out in a rush, and it's like, that's it, no change. It just depends. And several, by the way, of my songs have turned, I'm sorry, several of my poems have turned into songs. So I'm recording an album later this year too. And then, so second book is poetry. That will be Escaping the Shadows. And the third book then is The Light Within. You can see how this ties to Rumi. This is Freedom Through Forgiveness. This is about mothering your child within, because it talks about overcoming that intense motherhood guilt that I had. I mean, that was really the driver of, I felt like I was a failed mother because I had this high perfectionist standard of how I should be. And um, my children wouldn't have said that they thought I failed, but I considered that I had failed. But it was also related to my childhood trauma. So I, a specific incident that I had. So I discuss how I dealt with that. I have very specific tips for people, and that's also coming out in July. Then the fourth book that I'll be releasing, but will be the third book this year, is Habitually Happy: 7 Lessons for Lasting Joy. And that's really the practices that I have to maintain that. Because remember, earlier on in the conversation I said, oh, I thought, I know this, I know that, I know self-development, check, 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 but I wasn't actually practicing them. So I'm sharing the 7 main practices that I continue to do, and those are my happy habits.
I love that because it is a habit, and that's how you named your company, Habitual Happiness. And we have to be mindful to incorporate that in and create it for ourselves. Because I sometimes think like we look to the external for happiness. It's external, and I've known this for myself. Like once I get it, I'm like, oh, then it just wears off, and I'm constantly looking for the next thing again. And so finding that and cultivating that internal happiness is so amazing. And so I am
Mm-hmm.
excited to for the release of your book to find those 7 happiness habits.
Well, and I can share the highlights of them with you if you'd like. Okay. So the first one is, and by the way, these also spell an acronym. So the acronym is Happier, Happier. And the first one, H, is Healthy Expression of Emotion. Because what I realized is that I was repressing my emotions. And then, now that's not the case for everybody. Some people are very expressive in their emotions, but they're still bypassing the emotions and not listening to them, okay? Because they're not expressing them healthily, they're bypassing them. Like, one of the things for me specifically was I suppressed my anger because I thought, if I acted like an angry person, or if I expressed my anger, that was bad. And I had all sorts of beliefs attached to that. But then I realized that anger is a friend. It lets us know when our boundaries have been infringed. And there's a really welcome place for anger. And we can express anger with love, to assert our boundaries. So H is healthy expression of emotion. The A is to allow forgiveness, which Everybody needs this, but perfectionists need it even more because we are so incredibly hard on ourselves because of that gap that I was talking about, right? That gap is where we're really, really hard on ourselves. And most perfectionists are super successful and do not feel that way. Like we know that we've had successes, but they're never enough because we're so hard on ourselves with it needs to be this high and it needs to be hard and, all of that. So allow forgiveness, let go of those mistakes, let go of trying to be perfect in all these different ways. And that's why I say excellence, because excellence is a standard we can meet. We don't need to beat ourselves up on it, and progress is part of that. Now, the third one is P, personal empowerment. And this is about focusing on things that we can control, not trying to fix other people. And this is not an easy one to do because we just naturally play the blame game. This is something that we grow up doing. So we learned it by osmosis. We learned it by observation. It was modeled for us. And when we focus on, well, what is it about me that this behavior is triggering? Why is it so uncomfortable for me? What can I do to respond? And I use the word respond rather than react because I believe that react is an unconscious reply, okay? It's an unconscious thing, but a response is a conscious choice. So that's the first P. The second P is passion and purpose. And it would shock people to know how uncreative I thought I was my entire life until I was 50 because I I used to really admire people who said, "Oh, my passion is doing blah blah blah," and people who could sing and you know authors and poets and writers and all sorts of things because I didn't feel like I could do any of that. And I never took a creative writing course, um, you know. So passion and purpose. And see, this was part of being a perfectionist because if I couldn't do it well, I really didn't want to do it at all. Okay. And so progress, like I've been taking voice lessons for 4 years, and I just started out trying to hit a particular note for a song that came to me, and then I was like, well, let me just see where this goes, and I just kept focusing on the progress, and then I had written a bunch of songs, and then finally I said to myself, I have enough for an album. That might be a fun thing to do. So passion and purpose, you know, it doesn't have to be big. And it can be going back to some of those things that we set aside because we didn't think we were doing them good enough. Well, who said it had to be good enough? Can't it just be fun? It doesn't have to be great, right? Just be fun. So I was just having fun with singing. And then it turned into something different as step by step I did something. Then the next one is inspiration. So the HAPPI, we're in the I. Inspiration is really about mindfulness, the practice of being, and really tapping into our inner wisdom, because we all have inner wisdom. But as perfectionists, we are so busy doing, we don't do enough being. And we are far more productive when we tap into our inner wisdom and we allow ourselves to be, and then we do. The E of happier is exercise and self-care. So eating healthy, treating our body well, all of these things are about taking care of ourselves, taking care of our bodies, taking care of, that aspect. And then the R is routine. Now, it's not what you might think of routine. I call it day by day, moment by moment, because when I started doing these practices, um, I was worried about consistency. And if I didn't do them every day, I didn't want to consider myself a what? Failure, right? So, what I said at the beginning is I gave myself permission to do it day by day so that I had enough momentum that, I didn't go a month or 2 months and not do it. But like with my writing practice, 15 minutes most days. If I skip a day, okay. It's not the end of the world. And I don't have guilt around it like, oh, I should have done that. I'm not, because what would have happened, I know, because this was especially in the early days when I was still unwinding that striving to be so perfect. And by the way, I mean, I just want to say this now that perfectionism, anytime we're expanding our comfort zone, some of those perfectionistic traits and behaviors are going to come up again. This is totally normal and it happens to me. Okay? As much as I've done, it will still come up. This is something just to know and allow and not be upset about, oh, I thought I dealt with that. Yes, you did at that level that you were at. You're at a new level now and you're expanding and you're growing. And so other things are going to come up, or some of the same things are going to come up. So that's why I say moment by moment, because moment by moment, we want to evaluate some of those things that are coming up for us to say, oh, maybe I need to do a deeper dive right now and really explore this with curiosity rather than being judgmental about, oh my gosh, didn't I fix that part of myself before? So those are my happier practices, and I have them in a nice little download, a one sheet download, so that it's a handy reference, and you can share that with everyone who's listening too.
Yes, thank you, Liz. Because I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to take down these notes. I just rather listen to you because you have such an amazing, soothing voice, and it's tackling very deep-seated emotional topics like this, right? Because it goes all the way back to childhood, perhaps, with the perfectionism, procrastination. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to take down notes. So happy that you created this link, so it's available.
Yeah.
Screen for you guys. So if you are trying to keep up with all the acronyms, there is a handy link available for you here. They can check out. It's just habitualhappiness.com/happy habits. And I really love how you just break down, HAPPIER, and it gives you this new perspective, right, on how to think about that. And one thing you mentioned about just the consistency and and this idea of standards, right? Like, who's it good for? It should just be good enough for you. And does it have to be excellent? By what criteria? And you can decide the criteria, and you can decide what consistency looks like. And if you miss a day, okay. That really resonated with me because it rhymes. And also just having fun, right? So what, as long as you're having fun. And I think that was a really key takeaway message as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. I
Absolutely.
do want to acknowledge the our audience. Yeah. So Jill, thank you so much, Jill. I mean, Jill, said that there was some audio issues. So thank you so much for letting me know that. I hope I fixed it. So again, we're having fun. We're smiling away. And so and we didn't stop the broadcast, right? We forged
And it's
ahead. So,
not a
but thank you,
perfect
Jill.
broadcast.
It's not a
Okay.
perfect podcast. Okay.
We won't beat ourselves up over it because this is the thing with live.
Exactly, exactly. And just want to give a shout out. Let me see here. Deb. Deb has been watching us as well. So thank you so much, Deb, for tuning in. And Deb says, thank you, Elizabeth. This was an informative presentation. She really enjoyed it. She has done some
Oh,
shadow work.
great.
Yeah, and it's been really transformative for her. So I'm sure they'll be connecting with you later. And then Jill, yeah. So Jill says that she really likes that. Yeah, she would love to also get the downloads from you. So yes, they'll be available in the post. I'll put them in the comments, so they'll be everywhere. They'll be visible.
Yeah, and if there's anybody listening who, beyond the downloads, if you just want to have a conversation, a strategy session, that's on my calendar. So you just go to habitualhappiness.hub.com, HHH calendar, and there's a
Yeah, so
strategy
I'll
session,
include.
and we just talk about your needs.
Absolutely. So let me put that here on the screen for people as well. So yeah, so definitely check out Elizabeth's website and schedule a discovery call. Right, there is no commitment to schedule a discovery call and speak with her and pick her brain a little bit. And you mentioned something a little while ago about your poems turning into songs, and you're working on your voice lessons and putting together an album. So I was hoping if you would grace us with a snippet of a song.
Okay. Here, how about if I sing a little part of my perfectly imperfect song?
Ooh, yes, I think that'd be awesome.
Okay. You know the way it used to be, I'd hide so you don't see my never ending faults, locked in super secret vaults. A fraud is where I stood, pretending in my perfecthood, feigning others were to blame, to paint o'er my guilt and shame. Try to be totally perfect, totally perfect. Try to be. So that's the first part. That's the first stanza of it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. It's again, you have such an amazing voice and it's so soothing.
Thank you. And to give anybody hope, when I release my album, I'm going to release like the early versions too to people who are like on my mail list or beta subscribers or whatever, because I want to give other people hope. Like, I did not have a voice like this, and I have an amazing voice coach. I'll do a shout out to Chip Bonfanti right now, but um, it should give everybody hope. And like writing, a lot of authors, especially perfectionists, but everybody, they'll think, oh, it's not good enough. Well, you should see the first version of my manuscript. I mean, I looked at it and I said, this is a piece of crap. Like, who's going to read that? Um, I don't even get it. But here's the thing. I trusted in the inner wisdom, and I kept refining it until I loved it. And then I sent that baby out into the world.
Yes, Jill is also clapping for you here. So we can't wait for that album to drop. And then I don't know if you have SoundCloud, but that could be a way for you to start uh, importing some of those audio clips, early versions, the B-roll.
Yes,
of
I'm not waiting to get it perfect, right? However, I do want some accompaniment and some harmony. Like, I have the melody right now, but so I'm going to be doing some additional work on that in the studio this summer.
Fantastic. Awesome, awesome. And I think what you said just now really sums up our broadcast today. It's just progress over perfection. So thank you so much. I think that's a big takeaway that we can get from today's, interview. So thank you so much, Liz, for sharing that. And those of you who are watching this now or on replay, I hope you enjoyed it as well. Getting to know Liz all the way from Nigeria, and that I encourage you to connect with her, book a discovery call with her. So her link is here. So this has been another Lunchtime Live broadcast. Thank you so much for joining, Deb, Jill, and those who are watching on replay. I so appreciate you tuning in. And
Thank you
you can
so
also
much,
catch us.
Olivia.
Yes, yes, thank you. It's such an honor to bring you back. And I am looking forward to continuing our relationship, right? And so I think this is really
Absolutely.
important. You know, we met online through the summit, and it really does take a little bit of extra effort following up, making sure you're building that relationship offline as well. And it can, it may not be instant. It takes time, people's schedules, logistics, time zones. But I really encourage all of you to, perhaps if you're meeting people, take that extra step, follow up, invite them to things, invite them to other events or getting to know them or just having a simple phone call, right? So that's always
Hmm.
easy to do, going back to the phone calls. So this has been a Lunchtime Left episode. Thank you so much for joining. And if you would like to be featured in a future broadcast, please let me know, send me a message, or you can just check the calendar and book your slot. And I look forward to working with you. So, Liz, have a wonderful, wonderful, is it evening, morning?
Yes, it is evening. It's
Evening, okay.
6:30. It's almost 6:30. Yeah.
All right, well, have a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for the internet cooperating with us again.
And have a great day.
Thank you,
It's going to
Liz.
be a great day because you
And
chose that.
productive. And productive and taking time to celebrate. So let's just, celebrate right now because we finished our broadcast. Ready? One, two, three. Whoop, whoop.
Woo woo.
All right, Liz. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you next Wednesday at 12:40 Eastern, 12:40 p.m. Eastern time. Take care. Bye bye.